I'm live. Oh. Today is Thursday, the 1st of June, 2023, and I'm reading out of Winged Pharaoh. It's a book by Joan Grant, published 1937. This is the fifth part of this really good book. It plays pre-flood, pre-Babylon, about 5,000 years after Atlantis, give her a year or two. It's lovely. She is now Pharaoh, Sikita. She co-rules with her brother. She rules Nam of the two lands. We are in it's chapter 4, I believe. The last chapter was Pharaoh in audience. Yes, chapter 4. The Poisener. One day, while Nea and I were walking together through the vineyards in the young darkness soon after sunset, he said that he had just heard the proof of the wisdom of one of his judgments. He told me of Ben-Shatta, who had been the chief scribe of the vizier of the land of the Hawk. 3 months before, soon after I became Pharaoh, the vizier had died, and the messenger who had brought the news of his death brought also a petition from Ben-Shatta that he should be appointed to the office. Nea was about to set his seal to the new title when he remembered that I had told him of a dream in which I had seen a golden hawk lying dead and bloated in the sun as if it had died of poison. Although at the time neither of us had thought the dream was of any importance, now Nea saw its significance. For the standard of the dead vizier was a golden hawk upon a blue ground. So Nea sent back the messenger empty-handed, saying that the candidate for office must come to the royal city before the title could be granted. When Ben-Shatta came before him in audience, Nea found that he was a scholar as well as a scribe, and so well did his face mask the evilness of his heart, and so plausible was his tongue, that he might have deceived even Pharaoh. But the seer who was watching him reported that the light of his ba was so heavy with cruelty, greed, and jealousy, that not only was he unworthy to guide others, but his light would throw a shadow in a dark pit. To every question Ben-Shatta made smooth answers, and Nea saw that he was too clever to betray himself. So he told him to return on the following day to hear the decision of Pharaoh. Then Nea asked Nesera to look into the jar of Ben-Shatta's memory, for in the water of his ma'at would be the reflection of those earthly deeds that had filled it. Nesera did so, and he told Nea that Ben-Shatta had poisoned the vizier. And he told him also the name of the poison, that it had been given in the spiced milk that the vizier drank instead of wine or beer, and the days on which it had been administered, which were 15. On the next day Ben-Shatta came before Nea, thinking to receive great honours and the titles and office of vizier, but instead he heard the history of his crime. Nea recounted to him in detail all that his evil had brought to pass, and Ben-Shatta thought that he had been betrayed by some hidden watcher of his crime, for he knew of no other way in which it could have been discovered. And he fell upon his face before Pharaoh and screamed for mercy. Then Nea gave judgment upon him. You, who have given a slow and painful death to one whom you should have honoured, shall die in the same manner in which, because of you, he died. You shall not know the time of your release. You shall be kept in a dark prison, where your guilty heart will conjure pictures of your sins and of your victims, and you will cringe from these your sole companion. Lest your body should grow weak, you shall be exercised at night, but your eyes shall be bandaged, for they are unworthy to look upon the stars. Twice a day food shall be brought to you, and while you eat, you shall have a lamp. For many days you may enjoy your food, but one day, although it will have tasted the same when you have eaten, of it, your bowels will twist within you as though they were trying to wring your spirit from your body. But you will recover, and you will grow strong again. This time, the same thing shall happen to you, and it shall happen many, many times, until at last, while you are racked with pain, you will implore the gods to make your torment yet more unbearable, so that your spirit may be free of it. You may think to avoid your punishment by refusing to eat the food that is sent to you, but you do not know the power of hunger. It would need a stronger will than yours to starve to death while your quivering nostrils savour choice dishes from the royal kitchen. You will remember that many dishes will give you nothing but a pleasant feeling of replention, and when the pangs of hunger grow keen, it is easy to forget that the food might be poisoned. Even if you can resist hunger, thirst is a greater torment. You will find that there are few who would choose to die of thirst when to their hand there is a goblet of warm spiced milk, and until the day you die you shall drink no other liquid than that in which your master drank his death. Naya paused in his story, and I told him that I thought it was a worthy judgment. He laughed and said that I had heard but a quarter of his wisdom. This morning Ben-Shaita was found rigid in death, his bitten lips drawn back, his body twisted as though it still writhed in great agony, and his blind eyes staring as though at some shape of horror. And yet, my sister, of my wisdom there has been no trace of poison in his food. If he had but known it, for nearly 3 months he has shared the dishes of our household, and sometimes even those served to our own table. Yet, having always before him the picture of a terrible death, which in his spirit he must have undergone 10,000 times, at last his body was so encompassed by his mind that he died, most suitably, a victim of the memory of his own evil. I continue. Chapter 5. Tribute. Twice every year the people of Kham make a free gift of a 12th part of what they have gathered during the past 6 months. This tribute is used for the common welfare of the country, excepting a 10th part which belongs to the priests, and a 10th part which belongs to Pharaoh. The wealth of Kham is administered by the viziers, who barter these things of which we have too much with other countries which have things that we lack. At every big city there are watchers of the river who record the height of the water, and by the rising of the river they know whether the harvest will fill the granaries and there will be grain for barter, or whether there is a danger of famine and gold and ivory must be turned into bread. Those of our people who have grain lands or animals or anything that time does not destroy quickly give a portion in tribute, a 12th of their harvest, or animals from their herds, or linen of their weaving. Fishermen and other whose goods perish give each day a 12th part to the temple or to the poor as a free gift. And those who work for another and who are without possessions work 1 month in 12 for Pharaoh, on the land, on the grain lands, or in the brick fields, or in the making of roads and water channels. Throughout the land tribute is received at the temples, save in the Golden City, where it is brought to Pharaoh. In the first year of my reign, Nea and I received tribute from the steps of the outer courtyard of the palace. We were seated on 2 thrones of ceremony, which were covered with zebra skins. Below us were the scribes who kept the tallies of all that was brought. On the left side of the courtyard were those officials who would take the tribute into their care: the overseer of the granaries, the royal herdsman, the vizier of Pharaoh, and the overseer of the royal household. In the order of tribute there was no degree of rank, for before Pharaoh all people of Kham are equal. A farmer with 2 little donkeys loaded with sacks of grain was followed by a noble whose porters carried tusks of ivory. Then came a woman with 2 ducks in a wicker cage, followed by a merchant who brought 6 flagons of Shipti's oil. then a little girl with a bunch of radishes and a string of onions, a boy with a she-goat and twin kits, a man carrying 2 bales of raw wool, a noble with 4 collars of gold, then a kinswoman of the royal house with 2 tame gazelles, and her servants bearing unguents in 6 jars inlaid with gold and lapis-lazuli, a man leading a red and white bull, and a woman with linen napkins finely embroidered, a noble from the south with gold and malachite, then 6 carts filled with grain, and 2 others with wine jars of a rare vintage. Tribute is used first for the welfare of the dwellers in the temples, for the food and linen of the priests, for the temple servants, and for the journey of the seers and healers that go about the country, so that the life of no priest is burdened by the small complexities of earth. Secondly, it is used to look after children who have no parents, and old people who can no longer work in the fields. Either they live in the house of a friend, who is then given sufficient grain from the granaries for their bread and for barter, or they live in houses that have been specially built for them by Pharaoh. Each city has a house for children, set in gardens where they can play together and learn the care of plants, and a farm where they are taught of their brothers, the animals. Some learn to be fishermen or to build in bricks. The girls learn to weave linen, to make clothing, to cook, and to look after a house. They are cared for by childless women who long for children. Those of the sick who have a family to look after them are visited by the healers in their own homes. But if they are alone, they are taken to the temple, and there they remain until they are strong again. Thirdly, the tribute is used for the maintenance of the armies, of the garrisons, and for the fleets of calm, both trade ships and ships of war. I'll stop this here. Still Thursday.